Get your CME tickets today at masculineexcellence.com.
Thank you. All right. So I decided to do this talk based on all the kind of drama that's been going on. I felt like this was the right thing to talk about today. And I'm going to tell you about how I live my life, how I think that men should live their lives, which is based on principles. And before we get into that, I'll just give you a quick summary of who I am. I'm John Sanmez. My brand is Bulldog Mindset. And I teach men how to go from the victim mindset to what I call the Bulldog Mindset. It's basically the opposite of the victim mindset. It's all about taking personal responsibility for everything in your life, whether it's your fault or not. And that's what it is to be a man. I try to help men in the 3 areas of their life: in fitness, in their finances, and in their dating and relationships. But it all comes down to mindset. Because if you don't have the right mindset, none of that stuff is going to matter. I really try to emphasize Stoic philosophy. I feel like that's a great philosophy to live your life. And so we're just going to jump into this because I've got a lot here. What does it mean to live your life by principles? Well, the biggest thing is that it's not living them based on emotions and based on what is beneficial to you, right? So a good example of this would be your taxes, right? So most people, if they're rich, they want less taxes, and if they're poor, they want more taxes. That's not a principle. That's doing what's best for you. Most people live their entire life that way. They do what's best for them. It's called being opportunistic. Now, there's nothing wrong with taking advantage of an opportunity, but you shouldn't base your life on that, because when you base your life on that, then you're not going to have stability. No one's going to know what you're going to do. It's unpredictable, right? Principles are unchanging. You should do what's advantageous to you, but not what's advantageous to you, but what is right by your own standard. So, why? Why should you live your life by principles? Okay? Well, without principles, you're going to be untrustworthy and stable. Right? That's not a masculine characteristic. Okay? Men and women don't appreciate a man that they can't trust. Trust is very important. You need to be able to rely on someone. If you can't rely on someone, you can't trust them, and that's not going to be the kind of man that you're going to want to associate. A man who can't be relied upon is weak. And I got a quote here that I feel really sums up what I feel is a good definition of a man that lives by principles. It's by John Walter Whalen. It says, "The true gentleman is the man whose conduct proceeds from goodwill, an acute sense of propriety, and whose self-control is equal to all emergencies, who does not make the poor man conscious of his poverty, the obscure man of his obscurity, or any man of his inferiority or deformity, who is himself humbled if necessity compels him to humble another, who does not flatter wealth, cringe before power, or boast of his own possessions or achievements, who speaks with frankness but always with sincerity and sympathy, whose deed follows his word, who thinks of the rights and feelings of others rather than his own, and who appears well in any company, a man with whom honor is sacred and virtue safe." So we're going to be talking about a lot of the principles that are in this message today. So here's the list of them. Hopefully we'll be able to get through all of them. I tried to come up with all the principles that I live my life by. I had to cut out a bunch from this list because there's so many of them. And I find it sad today that so many people don't even live their life by one principle. So we'll start with the first one here, which is to treat others based on who you are, not who they are. Now, this is something that comes up a lot of times with a lot of my coaching clients, because I hear people saying, "Oh, well, this person did this to me, so that's why I'm not friends with them. I'm doing this." We see this a lot, again, in the men's community. Unfortunately, we see a lot of this happening today, right? "Oh, this guy did this, so I'm gonna treat him like shit." But when you treat someone else like shit because they treated you like shit, it's a reflection of who you are. I don't allow someone who they are to determine how I am. Because once you do that, then you let that person destroy your own integrity. Don't let someone else's bad behavior or their lack of character undermine your character. When you respond to someone who's not worthy of your respect with disrespect, you're undermining yourself. right? You treat people, at least this principle that I live by, is that I treat people based on who I am. It doesn't matter who you are. I treat all people with respect. It doesn't matter if you have a low opinion of me. It doesn't matter if you said some shit about me. I don't care. I'm still going to treat you with respect because that's who I am. It's a reflection of who I am. Never allow someone to make you a victim. You always have a choice whether or not to be a victim, right? So many people today, especially men I see today, they're whining, they're crying, they're saying life is unfair. They're saying they did this to me, she did this to me, right? Again, with the divorce rate, with all of these things. Granted, yes, bad things happen to you, but you have a choice whether or not you decide that those things are going to make you a victim. Being a victim is a choice, right? Having something done to you is not a choice. I could punch you, and maybe you don't have a choice about that, but you have a choice to respond as a victim or not. And that's the key. I remember, one thing that really highlighted this for me is I saw Arnold Schwarzenegger. Did you guys see when Arnold Schwarzenegger was at, I think, this tournament? They had it on TV in South Africa, and this guy jump kicked him in the back. How many of you saw that? Okay. Did you see what happened afterwards? I think it was on Twitter. There's someone interviewed him, and when they kicked him in the back, that guy, he drop kicked him. I mean, he jumped in the air 2 feet flying into his back, and Arnold is an older man now. He's still Arnold, but it hurt, right? You could watch on his face. You could watch. He didn't know it was coming. He got sucker kicked. All right. They talked to him afterwards. They said, are you going to sue? What's going to happen? Are you going to press charges? And he said, oh, did someone kick me? I thought someone just bumped into me. Okay? See, that's the example of, he lives that life, that principle of not allowing himself to be a victim, even when everyone else would say, oh, you're a victim. He says, no, I have the power. I'm not going to be a fucking victim. I have the power to choose if I'm a victim or not. We all have that power. Never do things out of obligation. So many guys, especially in relationships, the reason why you have dead marriages, the reason why your girlfriend or wife doesn't want to have sex with you is because you're doing things out of obligation. You're not standing on your own. You're doing things not because you want to do them, but because you're supposed to do them. If you don't want to do something, don't fucking do it. Have you ever had someone do something for you out of obligation? It's meaningless. You know that they're doing it. They don't really want to be there. They don't really want to do it. Don't ever do things out of obligation. If you don't want to do something, say, I don't want to do it. If you don't want to go to someone's wedding, say, thank you for the invite, but I don't want to go. It's hard to do this. It's hard to live your life this way, but to live your life any other way is inauthentic, and people will know it. And you know what? When you're a person who's honest and doesn't do things out of obligation, what happens is people respect you. They might not like it at first, but here's the bright side of it. When you do something for someone and they know you don't do things out of obligation, they know you mean it. They know it's sincere. They value your compliments. They value your time. They value when you do something for them because they know it's coming from the heart because you want to do it. So don't do things you don't want to do. Do not have expectations. Have standards instead. Expectations are things you put on other people. Standards are things you have for yourself. Right? If you want a cure for all of the negative emotions that you'll ever experience in your life, I can give you the cure right now. I promise you, this will cure. You'll never have a negative emotion in your life. You'll never experience anger again in your life if you can do this. It's not easy if you let go of expectations. See, every single negative emotion, and you can do this exercise, next time you feel angry, next time you feel sad or upset or betrayed, I want you to think about what expectation is it tied to. Every time you'll be able to find there's an expectation. And the magic is if you let go of that expectation, it disappears. See, to expect, especially people, to do anything in this world is ridiculous. You can't control other people. To have an expectation on another person is the same as having an expectation on the weather. If it rains, I'm not insulted. I'm not personally insulted just because I wanted to be out in the sun. I can't get angry about that because it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to think that your girlfriend isn't going to cheat on you. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have a standard, that you shouldn't say, hey, if you cheat on me, we're done. But it's ridiculous to expect it. It's ridiculous to expect anything. So if you let go of those expectations, you're going to live a lot happier life, and you're not going to get disappointed. You're not going to get angry. Now, you might not tolerate everything. That's why you have standards. Standards are the things that you have for yourself. You say, I won't accept this in my life, but you're not angry about it. When someone violates one of my standards or one of my boundaries, I don't get angry. I don't get upset. I don't yell at them. I just deal with it. I might even shake their hand and say, you know, that it was nice, but we can't do business anymore. But, you know, I wish you well. Because that's what it is to have standards. But if you have expectations, that's when you get butthurt. You know, I was going to make a t-shirt that says, if you're butthurt, you're wrong. This one's a hard one for a lot of people. Always forgive. I try to live this in my life. And it's not about, see, the thing about forgiveness that I think most people screw up is, see, this is a principle you have for yourself. Someone doesn't have to apologize for you to forgive them. When you hold on to a grudge, that bitterness, it consumes you from the inside. It destroys you. I forgive people because I don't want to carry other people's burdens. And I also know that I am not perfect and I make mistakes. And I would rather have people give me grace than justice. And so if you always forgive, if you let it go, it doesn't mean that you always trust, right? Someone does something, you may not be able to trust them. You may have to give them some kind of consequences for their action, but you don't do it in an angry way. You let it go. You can forgive. And let me ask this question, because I know, how many of you honestly raise your hand if you have something in your life, someone that you're not forgiving right now? Okay, good. You guys are being honest. Let me ask you this question. Why? What benefit are you gaining in your life by not forgiving them? In fact, I'll turn the question around. How is it harming you? How is it harming you? What would your life be like if you just let that go? Because you're holding on to it. See, you don't have a choice of how people treat you and what they do to you. You don't have a choice. You're not them. You can only control your own thoughts and actions. And so when you take someone else's responsibility and take it upon yourself, and you're responsible for someone else's feelings and their actions, that's a burden. You want to let go of that burden today? Everyone who raised your hand, think about it when you have a break. Can you forgive them? Can you just let go and then see if that burden is lifted from you? Because I'll tell you, if you're not forgiving someone, it is hurting you. It's not hurting them. They don't care. Take personal responsibility for everything in your life, everything. Right? People whine to me all the time. John, life is unfair. Of course life is unfair. It is fucking unfair. It doesn't matter. Because I'll tell you something that a lot of people won't tell you, which is no one gives a fuck about you. No one gives a fuck about you. Now, there's some people that will be concerned about your well-being, if you're okay. You can have friends, but no one gives a fuck about your dreams and your desires. They'll make sure you're okay? But you have to take personal responsibility for everything that happens in your life because you're the one who has to live the life. And so if you blame it on the government and you blame it on your girlfriend or your wife or women or whatever it is, that's fine. Maybe it's their fault. It doesn't fucking matter if it's not your fault. You still have to deal with it. So you can't deal with it until you take responsibility. Even if you get a car accident, I've had someone hit me and it's not my fault. Well, I take the fault upon me because I was the one who chose to drive the car. It doesn't matter if it's their fault or not. I have responsibility. I'm the one who has to take care of the problem. It's not their problem. It's my problem. They made a problem for me. That's fine. It's still my problem. So you have to take responsibility for everything in your life. When you start thinking that way, then you stop making excuses. Because when you blame other people and you don't take responsibility, what it allows you to do is to make an excuse and say, I'm not where I want to be because of such and such. And that stops you from having power. Hear advice from others, but rely only on your own judgment. If I had to give you one thing that makes a man, it's this. Being guided by your own judgment. Today in society, we live in a social media era. Most people don't have their own opinions. Not their true opinions. They retweet things. They see what someone else says and they join that tribe. They get tribal about it. Okay, you can listen to people. It's good to have good counsel. My rule in general is that I try to listen to people that are more successful than me, knowing that they must know something that I don't know. But ultimately, at the end of the day, don't follow anyone. You are your own man. You decide what is right, And we'll talk about this a little bit later, but you accept the consequences for the actions that you take in life. You have to take the responsibility. You have to rely on your own judgment. You cannot rely on how many people liked your video. I did this video on Jordan Peterson, and I liked the guy, but I had some things to say about some of the hypocrisy that I felt he was living. And that video got so much hate. It got like 20,000 downvotes, I think, at this point, okay? And like 100 upvotes or something like that. And the most common comment on the video was, "I can't believe you haven't taken this video down. Don't you see all the people that have disliked it?" And I thought, wow, what the fuck? I'm living in a world where people think because someone else dislikes something that you should change your opinion and take it down. I don't care if 1,000,000 fucking people disagree with me. I'm going to go by what I believe is right. And you have to make that choice yourself. And I will bear the consequences of my choice. Live each day as you will live every day that way. I got this from, there's this quote by, that says that how you do one thing is how you do anything. I think that's also a good principle, but I like to apply it to the day because, you see, if you decide to not get up and go work out in the morning and you want to eat some donuts instead, when I make that decision in my head, I don't think I'm doing this one time. I think I'm doing this 100 times because that's the reality, is because how you live one day, because you think you're going to be better tomorrow, you're not going to be better tomorrow. Whatever choice you make today, that's the same fucking choice that you're going to make tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. You don't even know if you have another tomorrow. So you have to live every single day as if you're stuck in the fucking ground. Have you seen the movie Groundhog Day? That's your life. That's everyone's life. And think about it. Most of your days are the same. And so the reason why you're fat, the reason why you're broke, the reason why you haven't improved and gotten to where you want in life is because you keep on saying, well, tomorrow, after the weekend, I'll start my diet. And that becomes the pattern. You have to choose now. You have to say, with every decision you make in life, I'm going to repeat this decision for the rest of my life. That will carry some weight. Live your life, accept the consequences for your actions. This one's really important. It's a lot about what I said before about using your own judgment. I used to live my life in obligation. I used to live my life out of guilt. I need to do this. I need to do that. At one point in my life, I said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to do whatever I want to do, and I will just accept the consequences of whatever that action brings about. You have to make a choice to live your life. You cannot live your life for your parents, okay? I deal with a lot of my coaching clients are from Eastern, China, India. They struggle so much with living their life for their parents. It's your life. You got to make a choice. You got to make a choice because no one else is going to suffer the consequences of your choice, good or bad. It's up to you. So you got to stand up and be a man and say, no, this is what I'm going to do. You don't have to be disrespectful. You don't have to be mean to people that disagree with you. Sometimes you have to cut people out of your life, but you make a choice and you stand by that choice, and then you enjoy or suffer the consequences of that. That's what it is to be a man. Never let someone put their hooks in you. If someone wants to give you a free handout, say no. Doesn't mean that you can't accept a gift, but you know when someone is doing something because they're going to want something from you in the future. You ever seen the movie Godfather? Right? Okay, it's true though. So many guys that I talked to today, they let someone get their hooks in them. They let their parents buy them a house. Okay? There's strings attached to that shit. All right? I had one guy I was coaching. He married this girl. Her dad was really wealthy. And her dad, we were on a coaching call, and he's like, yeah, my father-in-law, he wants to buy us this house. He's going to pay the mortgage on this house. And I was like, no, don't fucking do that. You're gonna be his bitch forever. Your wife is not going to respect you because you're not the man. Her father is the man. You need to be your own man and make your own way in life and not accept that gift because that gift has strings attached. Now, not all gifts have strings attached, but you know when gifts have strings attached. You know when you're getting something you don't deserve. When you're getting something you don't deserve, do not take it. Say, no, thank you. I'll do it myself. Goes right into this. Do not want anything you haven't earned. I kid you not. You can test me on it if you got 10 million bucks. But if tomorrow someone came up to me and they said, I'll give you $10 million, I would say, no, thank you. Because that would ruin my fucking life. Okay? Not because I would go and blow the 10 million. I would invest it in real estate. I'd do smart things with it. But I'd feel like a piece of shit because I would have something I didn't earn. Because the only thing you really have in life is what you would have with you if everything burned in a fire. That's the only thing you really have. Your money can be taken from you. Your youth, your looks, your physical stature, relationships, family, all that can be taken from you. The only thing that you have is what would remain if everything were taken from you. So you don't want things you haven't earned. If you won the lottery, it'd be the worst fucking thing that ever happened to you, I promise you. That's why I don't play the lottery, because I don't want to win the lottery. Judge actions, not people. Again, this is a big one in the men's community today. I see this happening all the time, okay? I have no problem calling out people's bad advice and their actions, but I'm not going to call them out by name, okay? Because I don't know, and you don't know what's going on in their head, what struggles they're going through in life, where they are in their personal development. And you can help that person instead of tearing them down. You can say, no, man, you know, I respect you, I like you, but I don't agree with that. That's not cool. That's not good. That's not helping you. The way that you acted, the way that you treated that person, that's not right. I'm still your friend. I'm still here. But I got to tell you that. Too many people I see today, especially, gossiping like high school girls. This guy did this guy did that. I don't have fucking time to check out all these stories and figure out which ones are true or not. I don't even fucking care. I care about how a man treats me. I care about the relationship I have with that person. Stop gossiping. Stop caring about gossip. Stop listening to gossip. Stop watching gossip fucking videos and start judging people. Stop judging people. Start judging actions. That's how we improve. This one gets a lot of flack, but I hold to it. Never explain, complain, or apologize. The never explain or complain is a Benjamin Disraeli quote. I added the apologize to it because I think you should live your life unapologetically, because if I do some shit, I intended to do that shit. I will own it, but I'm not going to apologize for it. I don't need to apologize. I don't need to explain myself. So many of you guys, especially in your relationships with women, you explain yourself. You don't need to explain yourself. You take an action. You stand by that action. I've had this multiple times with coaching clients. I have them pull up their iPhone, and I'm like, how many alarms do you have on your iPhone? And it's like 6:30, 6:35, 6:40, 6:45. I'm like, fucking A, get rid of all of those, you get one. The next question is, everyone asks the same next question, which is, what if I miss the alarm or I don't wake up and then I'm late for work? Then I said, all right, this is what you do. You go in late for work, your boss says, hey, you're late. And you say, yes, I am late. It's my fault. Nothing else. No, I missed the alarm. No, there was traffic. You don't explain. No one wants to hear that shit anyway. You just own it. You did it. You own it. See, we catch ourselves in this needing to explain ourselves so that we can feel better. It doesn't make anyone feel better. You just own it. You just take what is yours. Take the licks that you deserve, and don't try and explain it. And don't complain about it either, because complaining isn't going to do shit. No one wants to hear your complaints. And you don't even need to apologize. You just need to say, when you come into work late, you don't even need to say, I'm sorry. You just say, I'm late. I accept whatever consequences come from that action. That's how you be a man. All right? Now, I will put a little caveat here in saying, if you harm someone unintentionally or to a very great degree, to apologize is okay, but the reason why I put this here is because most people don't know how to apologize. When you apologize, what you do is you acknowledge what you did wrong, you make no excuses for it, you acknowledge how it made the other person feel, and then you make restitution for it. In fact, you can skip the other two and just do the third one. That's better than an apology. Just fucking make up for it. Don't let emotions influence your decisions. This is deeply rooted in Stoic philosophy, very important as a man. You can't trust a man that is guided by his emotions. Doesn't mean you don't have emotions. Some people are like, oh, Stoic philosophy, I don't have emotions. No. You control them. You have emotional mastery. And guess what? If you do what I told you before of letting go of expectations, you won't have negative emotions, or very few. But you don't let those emotions influence your actions. You take action based on principle. If you live your life by principles, you will stay out of that trap. If you're not living your life by principles, guess what you're living your life by? Emotions. Never be cheap with people or with food. This one I'll attribute to my dad. He told me this many times when I was growing up as a kid. Very, very true. People will know if you're a cheapskate. Just have the principle of not being cheap with people and not being cheap with food, okay? People will like you a lot more if you do that, and they will see. That's one way you display your character, by not being cheap with people. Move in the direction of fear and pain. It is your compass. If you want to know what you should do in life, find something that scares you or find something that's painful and fucking do it. Why? It seems masochistic. Why would you do this? Because that's how you grow. And life is about growing. If you're not growing, you're dying. That's a Tony Robbins quote. Very, very true. People, when they retire, a lot of times, they die right afterwards because they stop growing. If you want to grow, find something that scares you. If you want to grow, do something painful. Last year, I decided to become an ultra marathoner, and I ran a 50-mile race. Everyone's like, John, you're crazy. You're way too much. You're way too heavy. Why would you fucking do this? Why would you put yourself through this? Because I knew that that would cause me to grow, because it was really fucking painful, and I was scared. Okay, I grew as a person because of that. I always try to move in the direction of things that scare me or things that are painful. As soon, typo, as you know you are on the wrong path, turn around. This is actually an old Turkish proverb. Okay? One time I was on a diet and I broke down on my diet. I went to McDonald's. I said, I want a Big Mac meal, supersize me. Okay? Got the Big Mac meal. Sat down, had my Big Mac, all right? I'm like, all right, well, whatever. I take the Big Mac, I take a bite out of it. In my head, as I have that bite that I'm chewing in my mouth, I think, you're fucking up, John. You know what I did? I spit it out, I threw it away. The old me would have ate that and then said, well, fuck it, you fucked up your diet for today, so let's go and order some cheesecake. And just party tonight, and tomorrow we'll restart. No, it's fucking wrong. Why? Why do you guys do that? Why do we do that? Why did I do that? As soon as you know you're on the wrong path, just fucking turn around. It'd be so stupid if you use your Google Maps, right? Sometimes I do the walking directions, and I don't know what fucking direction it is. I always pick the wrong one. It's a 50-50 chance. I don't just keep on going the wrong fucking direction. When I see I'm getting further away, I turn around. It's so foolish to keep on going because you're already on a path. Just fucking turn around. The moment you know you did something wrong, turn around. And I'll tell you, as far as successful people in life, it's not the person who has the most wins. We all get wins. It's the person who gets on the horse the fastest, gets back up the fastest. It's not, you're going to fuck up. No matter what you do in life, you will fail. You will not be perfect. But the people that succeed in life are the ones who get up and get going again as fast as possible. It takes years, or a year, I don't know how many man hours and how many millions and millions of dollars to build a skyscraper. It takes 5 minutes to destroy it with a wrecking ball or explosives. Everything in life is like that. Trust the process. I had a t-shirt. I don't have them on sale anymore, but for my other company, Simple Programmer, I made a shirt with my principle on there because I think it's so fucking important. Trust the process. What does this mean? It means that you can't control the results. You have to divorce yourself from the results of things that you do, and instead you have to come up with a process that's going to get you there. And then you have to trust that process. When I first started my YouTube channel, I remember I had 2,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. I wanted to have 100,000, okay? So I said, well, I can't control that, but what's something I could do that would almost guarantee me 99.9% chance I'd get 100,000 subscribers? So I said, okay, well, I don't see any channels that have 2,000 videos on their channel that don't have at least 100,000 subscribers. So I had 500 at the time, or something around there. I did the math, and I was like, all right, I need to make 1,500 videos in 2 years. It worked out, whatever the math was, to doing 2 videos a day and 3 on Sunday. I did that for 2 years. I hit 100,000 within 6 months. But I didn't care about the result. I only cared, I made a process and I trusted that process. And the reason why this is so important is because if you're like, I'm going to get fit, so you go to the gym and you work out one day and you eat clean, you don't see any change. So you're like, oh, it's not fucking working. So much of life is like that. You have to grind it out. You have to trust the process. You have to believe if you continue to do the right actions and do the right things day after day, you will eventually get there. One of my favorite authors, Stephen Pressfield, in his book, The War of Art, he says, this is one of my favorite quotes from the book, he says, if you keep the huskies mushing, you'll eventually pull into Nome. It's true. I think about that all the time. Never allow someone to treat you in a way you don't want to be treated, okay? Forget about the red pill stuff and all the kind of crap that you hear. It's this simple. See? That's why it's always your fault. Because if you tolerate behavior, if you allow someone to treat you in a way that you don't want to be treated and you stay there and you continue to deal with it, it's your fucking fault. I'm not going to have sympathy for you. I'm sorry. Okay? When someone doesn't treat me the way that I want to be treated, I tell them, and if they persist, I use my feet. That's your most powerful weapon. It's not threats. It's not violence. It's your feet. You leave. You remove your attention. Okay? So important. There's a really good book if you guys haven't read it. It's called Boundaries. It's a very theological book. It's very Christian-based. But it doesn't matter what religion you are. Read that book. You need to learn how to set boundaries in your life. Once you start doing that, you'll find that your life will be much, much better. Let me ask this question, another honest question here. How many of you right now are allowing someone in your life to treat you a way that you don't want to be treated? Raise your hand. So my question for you would be why? Why? Why not stop it today? I'm not saying be an asshole. I'm not saying, how dare you fucking treat me like that, you bitch. I'm not saying that. I'm saying just simply remove yourself from the situation. Tell them the boundary that they're violating. Say, hey, you know, I had a buddy that used to like rag on people all the time. I said to him, hey, look, I don't like when you say that, when you make fun of me. I don't like it. He said, well, John, what do you know, whatever. I said, don't do it. He said, oh, what, you're going to be a crybaby? I just left. And I never talked to him again until he came around and he's like, oh, okay, he got it. People will get it. Once you start asserting yourself and putting a boundary in place, people will realize if they want access to you, they have to treat you right. And why would you even want to be with someone who doesn't treat you the way you want to be treated? It's not fun. So think about it. Think about it. Never say something behind someone's back that you wouldn't say to their face. This is so important in the age of the internet. Okay? Sometimes you meet someone in person that you didn't think you're going to meet. All right? It's really easy to be brave on the internet. But regardless of the consequences, you just shouldn't do that. Why? Because if I start gossiping about someone and talking about them behind their back, and you're talking to me and you're laughing like, ah, yeah, this guy, you got to wonder, what am I saying behind your back? Because people are consistent. You know, who you are comes out. You can't change that. It displays in all of your actions. How you do one thing is how you do everything. So don't do it. When someone talks bad about someone else, leave the room. Tell them, hey, I don't like talking shit about people. If you do it, you can do it yourself, but I'm not going to be here. I'm not going to participate in this. Start calling people out when they do it. Just say, hey, that's not cool. That guy's not here to defend himself. Simple. If we all did this, the men's community it would be 100 times, 1,000 times bigger than it is right now. Think about that. If we made this one change, it'd be 1,000 times bigger than it is right now. Set goals based on who you will become, not what you will get. This was a hard lesson for me to learn in life, but I think it's very, very important. Most people set goals because they're like, oh, if I make this money, if I bang this hot chick, these hot chicks, it turns into these millions of dollars, this job, this promotion. There's a never-ending ramp that you can never reach the top of because you keep on thinking you'll be happy when you reach that goal. I remember the most depressing point in my life, I was 33, I retired. I became financially free. It was what I worked my whole life for. I went to Maui and I lived on the beach, and I was going to play video games and drink Mai Tais. Most depressing fucking moment in my life. It was the thing that I lived for, that I was waiting for this day. Why? Because I made my goal about what I was going to get. That wasn't it. It's who you become in the process. Like I said before, if you lost everything, what you'd have left after a fire burned up everything, that's the only thing you truly have right now.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about expectations versus setting standards. And I know I had a lot of unmet expectations in my marriage, led to a lot of difficulties I mentioned before. But in the field where I work in healthcare, you have to have expectations of your coworkers. If you don't, bad things can happen. How can you not live your life having expectations of other people?
That's a great question.
And be so having a lack of emotion, like, oh, I don't care if you didn't, take care of this or take care of that. I mean, somebody's going to suffer because of it.
That's a great question. See, you can have standards instead. See, an expectation is believing that someone's going to do something. You're tying something to that, right? If someone lets me down or disappoints me, they can't, because I don't expect them to not do that. Now, the expectation doesn't change your response, right? It doesn't have to. So if you have a standard that says, okay, this is the standard. My standard is you treat me this way. My standard is if I'm working with you, you do your job. My standard, I have standards for my employees. I tell them, hey, this is the standards. I don't expect them to obey those standards. That's up to them. It's not my responsibility. It's not my choice. I don't have any control over it. To have expectations on things you don't have control over is ridiculous. What's that?
How can I expect your employees to do their job?
You can have a standard that they do the job. The expectation is ridiculous because one of your employees may go crazy, have a midlife crisis, and decide that he's going to completely change his personality. You don't have control over that. But you can have a standard that says, if you do not do this, then you'll be fired or be reprimanded, right? And what that does is it takes the emotional component out of it. Because I don't care. I don't care if my employee does a job or not. He can get fired if he wants to. I don't have control over it, right? It's the same thing. Guys are always worried, oh, my girlfriend's going to cheat on me. She's going to, all these kind of drama. No, you have a standard. And then if the person doesn't meet that standard, you don't even have to be upset about it. You're just like, hey, I didn't expect anything, right? You don't have any right to expect anything from anyone. They can do anything that they want. I mean, the other side of that coin is to not allow people to put expectations on you. I didn't put that in the slide. But when you start doing that, then you start to see, right? When you say, no, you're not putting expectations on me. I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm responsible for my life. But no, that's a good question. I think that's why I make the distinction between expectations and standards. Because standards you can have for yourself. Expectations are something you put on other people, right?
Can you talk about how to do hard things? Because you were mentioning to trust the process, and sometimes like the process can be hard, and like some of the actions that you may have to take could require like it could be difficult to do. Like, how do you do hard things?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few strategies I use. I think the simplest thing to do is to break them down, right? I come from a software development programming background, right? And whatever the most complex algorithm is, it can always be broken down into a single line, and the next line, and the next line, which is all simple statements. There's nothing complicated. Everything can be simplified. And so, for example, when I was writing my book, right? It was a big book. It was like 700 pages. One of the books I wrote is 250,000 words. I just broke it down into chapters, and then I broke the chapters down into outlines, and then I broke it down to say, every day I need to wake up and I need to just write for an hour. Just trust the process. That's it. right? If I thought about writing a whole book, it's overwhelming. I would never start it. I would never do it. I would start writing and then I'd be like, ah, fuck, I'm done with this. But I broke it down into simple things. The second thing that I do is I make things life or death. Everything is life or death, because it is. Because I'll tell you why things are life or death, is because I think of the analogy I use is imagine your life as a car, right? And most of us are duct taped and handcuffed and strapped into the back seat of the car, and someone else is driving the car. Someone else is driving your life, okay? In some instances in life, you have this moment of clarity where you can see it, and you can make a choice. And you can decide, what you have up here, what your will is, and you can do it. You make it happen. If you choose not to do that, right, then you're not in control of your life. It's not even your life. You might as well be dead. You're like a pinball in a pinball machine, just random collisions controlling your life. Most people live that way. If you can't live by your conscious choice and action, if your will, the greatest measure of freedom that I've found in life is your ability to execute your will upon the world. And so if you can't think a thing in your head and then do it, you're not living your life. You're dead. You're just code running. You're not actually living. You don't have any sovereignty. So when you really think about that, and think about that, if you cannot think a thing in your head and then force yourself to do that action, you're forfeiting your life because you're forfeiting your sovereignty. That's a motivation there. Oh, yeah. One last one, and then we'll...
The expectation and standards thing, I can imagine the stress that's going on about the semantics of those two words. When I turn on the faucet, I have an expectation that water's going to come out. And whether I take it personally or not, the water comes out is another thing. I'm on my way to go to work, water doesn't happen. Now I'm angry. What the hell's going on? So I'm pissed off. Because I have an expectation, and I assume that's going to happen. Now I have a standard, hey, faucet, what? Water going to come out. Still, you see what I'm saying? So it's a little bit of stressor. And how do we navigate life? We want to have faith and trust that certain things are going to happen, and that we have an agreement that those things are going to happen. When they don't happen, I understand this, which is don't get angry, keep your standard, but accept that the world is different than what you expect it to be. You have to let go of that expectation about controlling the outside world while holding your standards. I'm trying to work with those distinctions.
I'll give you... So what if I told you that when I turn on a faucet, I don't expect water to come out? I have a high probability of belief that it will, but I don't expect it. Because the problem is, see, what really fucks someone in life is something like that. Maybe not the faucet, but you're like, oh yeah, you have the expectation your child isn't going to die. It could happen. It does happen to people. If you have that expectation, it's going to rock your world. If you're like, the Stoics even talked about this, Seneca talked about this. He said, he basically said that I appreciate my family, my loved ones when they're here, but I don't expect that they're not going to die. And that it's important. It's hard to let go of all expectations in life, and no one's perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm sure I have some expectations, but I've tried to let go as many as I can. And the more expectations you let go in life, the more free you will be. Because even the faucet, even that silly example, if you go and you turn on the faucet and you had an expectation that you should get water, you're gonna be upset. It's guaranteed. I mean, you can control the anger, you can temper the anger, but if you say, hey, whatever, if you have no expectation, if you're literally like, okay, if I turn on the faucet and no water comes out, I'll just fucking deal with it. You don't have an expectation, your life is gonna be a lot easier. Thank you.